Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Kenroy here. Thank you so much for joining me once again. Now in today's video, I'll be sharing 5 important tips when it comes to buying your property and why it's important that you buy your property as young as possible. Now many people think that buying a property should be something that you do when you're much older, when you've got all your priorities right. You've started a family, perhaps gotten married, and everything is going well, you then buy a property. But in today's video, I'm going to be sharing 5 tips, guys, as to why I think that buying now, buying as young as possible, is a fantastic idea and how that will benefit you in the long term. Now, if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to this channel so you can get regular content on property investing, personal finance, as well as some DIY. Now, let me just start by saying, guys, that I am not a financial advisor, and every advice that is shared here today is my own personal advice and experience. Now, if you do need advice, please seek a professional who will be able to give you tailor-made specific advice that will suit your personal needs. Now, I hope that this information, however, will be beneficial to you in order to point you in the right direction and to give you the encouragement that you need in order to get the job done. Okay, so tip number 1, guys, is simply this. You will have a sense of personal freedom when it comes to buying and owning your first home. Now, one of the mistakes that people often make is that they wait until they think that the time is perfect for them to buy their first home, that they'll stay in until they reach retirement. But I'm going to suggest to you that your first home doesn't need to be the house you're going to stay in for the rest of your life. On the contrary, your first home should be a property that you can acquire as soon as possible. Now, I'll share a few reasons a bit later as to why it's important to buy now as soon as possible. Now, the personal freedom that you'll get from actually owning and buying your first property is that you'll be able to do what you want when you want. No one will be coming and saying they're going to kick you out because the property will belong to you. As long as you keep up with the repayments, then you're good to go. In terms of decorating, changing the layout, the landscape, whatever it is, this will be all down to you as the homeowner. Now, tip number 2, guys, and this goes hand in hand with tip number 1, which is you can make it your own. Now, once you've bought your property, you can make it your own. You can decide where you want to put certain things and how you want to do it. You can choose the different decorations and also the fixtures and fittings that you want in that property. You can basically customize that property how you want, according to your budget, of course. You can change the layout, perhaps do an extension, all the while knowing that at the end of the day, once you keep up with those repayments, this property is yours. Now, property prices keep going up, and the sooner you buy a property is the more likely you will be to be able to add value to that property. Now, if you were to buy a property back in 2011 versus now 2021, I'm sure that property will be worth far less. Now, the level of customization that you will have compared to if you were renting obviously is night and day. So whether you want to change the color of the walls, do some work on the roof, do an extension, loft conversion, whatever it is, the property is yours and you're able to do that. Versus if you were renting, you have to ask permission from the landlord, and most cases you're only able to do minor cosmetic changes to that property, or the landlord might not even allow you to do so. So this is a huge advantage to buying your property early and as soon as possible. Now, tip number 3, guys, is that you can unlock more cash. Now, the reason why I say this is the simple fact is homes in a good location tend to hold their value nicely, and property is normally a safe place to invest your money. Now, if you were to buy your property in a nice location, chances are the price of properties will steadily increase over the years, which means that you'll gain appreciation on that property. So take, for example, if you were to buy a property like we did for under £200,000 in the area that we did, in the space of 2 years, guys, this property is increased by more than £30,000. And this is because we bought below market value, added value to the property, and of course, over time, your property price will appreciate. Now we'll be able to now draw the money out of this property if we wanted to invest elsewhere. The truth of the matter is, if you were to buy your property now, it's probably one of the safest investments you'll ever make, as long as you know what you're doing, of course. Now, all you'll have to do once buying your property is sit back, relax, make sure you keep up with those monthly repayments, and you'll watch your asset grow in value, which basically means that you'll be making money for just living in your own home. Now tip number 4 guys, it could be a potential money maker. Once you've gotten over the obstacle of actually saving up the deposit that you need and buying your first property, whether it's by yourself or with a partner, once you've gotten over that hurdle and you're no longer renting anymore, chances are your mortgage will cost far less than your rent that you were currently paying. And if you have bought a property that is big enough, you could potentially be renting out some of those rooms. You could either have your spare rooms as rooms for lodgers to lodge in for a period of time, or you could go into serviced accommodation like Airbnb and so on, where you can actually rent out rooms per week to people who are looking to stay in your area. Now you might have to spend a little bit of cash just sprucing up the house a bit, making sure that it's somewhere that, you know, guests would enjoy staying. But nevertheless, you could actually be collecting money each month that could pay your mortgage. So essentially you could actually live for free. Now this one will only apply to those who are able to do so. Perhaps you don't have children and you have the space available. But nonetheless, this is a great reason why buying a property now could be beneficial, especially when you're younger. Now guys, my 5th and final point is that this could be a nest egg for retirement. Now when you consider how rocky pensions have been and how the cost of living keeps going up far beyond people's wages, it makes sense to actually have some form of investment so that when you become a pensioner, when you get older in your golden years guys, you can actually have something to fall back on. Typically the younger you buy your property, the sooner you'll be able to pay off for that property. So if you have a mortgage say for 25 years and if you bought your property at the age of 25, that means by the time you're 50, technically you should have paid off for that mortgage, which basically means that you will basically be living rent-free, mortgage-free for the rest of your life until, the day when you're no longer with us. Now, if you've got a typical 9 to 5 and your goal is to just work hard, pay off your mortgage, save up into a little pension pot and retire at the age of, I don't know what it is now, maybe 67, let's call it 70, by the time most of us will retire. Now you get to that age, if you're still paying off a mortgage, it's going to be incredibly difficult for you to make ends meet. However, now if you were to buy your property, say at the age of 25 and you finish paying off your mortgage at say 50 or even 55, you could then start saving up even more cash. So for example, a property that you bought for £200,000 at the age of 25, I guarantee you will be valued far more than that by the time you're 50 and you finish paying off that 25-year mortgage. Therefore, you will actually have a lot of equity, a lot of capital wrapped up in this property that is now worth perhaps 300,000 instead of 200,000. Now, this will vary depending on the area and obviously a lot of circumstances, but a property is absolutely a fantastic way for you to invest in your future. Now, my wife and I, our goal is to buy at least one more property, guys, so that we can have an investment for our future, so that by the time we reach retirement, we would have had at least one more property, so we'll have enough cash flow coming in along with our pensions so that we can live comfortably, and of course to help our children where possible. Now here's a bonus tip for you guys. If you're a budding investor, one of the great things with buying a property as soon as possible is that it actually gives you more credibility when it comes to other lenders. So for example, if you're to buy your property now and start getting that experience that you need, it actually makes you more favorable to other lenders. So lenders do appreciate when you've had experience in owning your home before buying a buy-to-let, for example. You're able to get much better rates, and of course the process of buying a property will become so familiar with you that it's going to be much easier. Also, you're able to pull out equity out of the property that you currently own in order to invest in a second or a third property, however many times you can do this over the length of owning your home. This is definitely a great way for you to increase the amount of money you have when it comes to investing in another property, so I highly recommend it. Now, I hope that these 5 tips, guys, as well as the bonus one, would have been beneficial to you, and it will help you to realize that now is the time for you to buy your first property. Don't sit around, wait, keep that money in the bank, because it's not actually making you any money. In fact, you're actually losing money by just letting it sit there. It's better to spend that money now so that you can buy a property that will appreciate in value over time. Now, of course, this may mean that you have to move location in order to find a house that you're able to afford. However, you have to consider that this house does not need to be your permanent house forever. You know, you can always move at a later date, but the main thing is to get onto the property ladder as soon as possible. As always guys, this is Kenroy saying, I'll see you when you see me. Take care.